Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and today is Tuesday. It's June 14th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And this is really, we had a pretty good downtrend right here, and then it was really more neutral. Notice how prices are going. Hopefully you can see. Let me make it a little bigger. This is basically a range day, but you can see the EMA in there, and prices are consistently. We kind of had a downtrend here. We were consistently below the EMA, and then we start swinging back and forth again. When it's swinging back and forth like that, that's a good sign that it's a range type day, and you generally can trade that both ways. You got to be careful. You still have to use the short term trend lines and follow the rules on that. But for the most part, you can trade it both ways when it's swinging both sides of the EMA like that. You still want to find your shorter term trends and pay attention to those. And of course, you always pay attention to the overnight highs and lows, and that's basically your range until we broke lower here. You had to consider this was a range because this is your overnight highs, and you can see that they're holding. We never can go above that consistently. And then here's your overnight lows, and we never do get below that consistently until here. And then we still are working sideways. You can see we're swinging back and forth. So people, I get that question a lot is how do you know it's a range day? Well, the first thing you want to look at is your overnight highs and your overnight lows. And as long as prices are in between those, you're probably in a range. And if when you get up there, and the way you know is that the more times that area holds, the stronger that is. And notice we had a double top there, then another double top there, and then even though we had a little failed break higher there, we got back in, then it held again. Same thing on the bottom. There's your overnight low. It held two more times. Then you had a little breakout pullback short there, and then it's still holding below it. Then we got back above it, and you can see we're bouncing. We're swinging both sides of it. So this was kind of from this point on. This was kind of the midpoint here and the range just worked a little lower. You still got to pay attention to that line. It's important because as long as the prices are below it, they're tending to act as resistance, and when they're above, they're acting as support. And right in here, we're kind of swinging both sides. Just more clues that this is a range. Lots of trades today. The volume has really picked back up again, so that's been good. Let's back out a little bit and talk about the trades. Right here, we were, like I said, here's your overnight highs, and they had held. We got two double tops there. 4 or 5, 6, 7 bars that have turned down there, and then of course here's your overnight lows. So, however, this looked like early on this was kind of the where you're getting more bounces right across here, and we had a little failed break lower. So, but it doesn't. We don't really get interested in anything till 7 o'clock. So, the first trade I saw was I drew this trend line off these first couple swings, and then we bounced on it right there. There's your third confirmation. We made a higher low. Uh, it's right off that trend line. You may not have had that trend line set yet. You may not have set it till here. Earlier I had it a little flatter, but when it bounced, I drew it there, and that's a third touch of that line. So no matter how you drew it, I liked it right there for a nice long. And you can see that's kind of a reversal bar. Just go long right there. Quick, easy scalp. You don't get anything else, but it pulls back and it tests that trend line again, and it closes inside it. That isn't the best looking bar, but when this one closed inside, what I do, I'm okay with putting a stop there because it is a trap. The fact that you got a short trap here, um, you don't have to have a perfect signal bar. So you might use a limit order there, but if you miss this, look what you missed. So you don't want to be too conservative. If you got what you need, and notice how it made a little higher low each time, and we're working up that trend line, just go long there. And if you did, you catch your runners here, and you can ride this all the way back to the top of the range. And I would exit a tick, even though it went a little higher. Why risk it? Just get out here. You got a little close outside right there, move to a new high, and we're struggling to get through. It does push through, and it runs a few stops, and then it just tanks. And that's generally what happens on range days. So I drew this one. This is basically a double bottom, so you could count this like a short trap as well. And there is some resistance right across there. So it looks like it's going to be a little failed break higher. See that resistance right across there? And it's a little breakout pullback long, but notice that shorter term trend line, and it breaks lower and closes back up. Just go long right there. You're probably headed to the highs here, and off it goes. I wouldn't enter here. Actually, you might could. That's the first close outside, and there's still room to these highs. So I'm willing to give that one a green one too. It's a little aggressive because we're away. Look how long we've been away from the EMA, and that's why a lot of people probably took that, but they're not realizing we're not to the highs. It actually went even further now. There's a lot of momentum in that move right there. And we aren't to the upper side of this line. You would copy, notice this is just a perfect clone of this line, and you drag it up to here, and so that's where you're looking for prices to go, right up in here somewhere. And notice we are getting resistance even though it pushes on through. We do have a close and a new high, but the main thing is we got a failed break lower, and look at that big bearish bar so far away from the EMA. I like going short there. And if you do, you catch a runner and you ride it all the way down to the other side of the channel again, and then it bounces. But look at this trend line working down. You get your close outside, a move to a new low, and where does it reverse? Right off that trend line. If you can't find that trend line by now, you got some work to do. But we're away from the EMA. It's a nice reversal, real bullish bar. Just put a stop right there and go long. You got enough room to get out before you get to the EMA, but again, it just keeps going. And where does it turn down? It breaches that resistance area. You get a big bearish bar. You're away from the EMA again. We're probably coming back. It actually pulls back and gives you another, but it's right into the EMA. I wouldn't, and we don't really have a break of this yet, even though we got an overshoot here. We don't have a break. It could bounce right here and go higher. So I don't like going short there. You get a failed second entry long here, but again, it's right into a double bottom. It's your first close outside of this channel, so you're probably going to get a new low, but there's not much room right there by that double bottom. And notice it didn't go very far, and it tried to bounce. Then it turns back down again. But it still turns out to be a really nice trade. And we just continue to work down here. But I don't see any chance to get in. Notice you got your shorter term when you get a break, and you've already moved to a new low and got two legs here. So just kind of watch this. It's probably headed down here, but I don't think you want to risk these. There's probably even, what I saw was a spike in channel here, but there's probably even a shorter term spike in channel, which I didn't have on here. And you can see there we do actually have a shorter term spike in channel. This thing's got 3 layers to it. And so I don't like any of those. You might have entered right there, but you're so far away from the EMA and you've been away for a while. We'll make that one green. It does kind of look like a shoot through the EMA or the midline and a pullback to retest it as well. So there's some reasons to consider that one. I'm definitely going to make it aggressive though. I'd probably skip it. But you figure prices, because this had been holding, if you pull that across, we're right into that, but it pushes down to the overnight low and bounces to the tick. We do have a close outside here. It's not very bullish looking, but it is, and a move to a new low. And look how far that is away from the EMA. But the reason I like it is it bounces right off that overnight low. So I kind of like, if you want to be aggressive, I like this one better than this one, because sometimes you will catch the low of the day here. And this was a nice move, but you didn't really, you didn't get anything real big out of it. And then, of course, I drew that trend line, and it fits along the bottom here. You can see that. So I don't see a chance to get a short there. There's actually a trend line that works back. You don't really get a close outside of it. You can see that trend line. It's a little real small channel right there. But there's no close and retest. There actually is right here, and then a retest, and we don't quite get a new high. But I don't like going short there because you really don't have this trend line confirmed yet. Then it comes back and it really confirms it here, but you never get a short until it breaks it and it makes this double top. Look how bearish. I like going short right there. Looking for it to make a new low, and it actually runs all the way back down to the low side again. And you get another little bearish reversal bar, but guess what? Where it bounces an equal distance from here to here. And so I like going long right to at least come back to the EMA, because you do have your close outside and 2 legs to a new low. And again, you're hoping maybe you catch the low of the day, but you don't. It runs back down. And it's just kind of going sideways. And I really don't see a good entry here. You might have considered going long here. But like I said, at this point, if you go to the far right side of the corner, it's been all downhill. And even though we're starting to go sideways, it's not real bullish yet. It's still more bearish. So, but you don't want to go short into that. So you just kind of have to sit and wait. And so that's the reason I don't like that one. Even though there's a short trap right there, I don't really like it. You're probably not going to fool a lot of people. It does take off. I don't think it fools many people, but I think all these shorts start getting concerned that we're headed higher, and they start exiting because it's not real strong. You can see you get a little push here, and then it just kind of tries to go lower again. And I don't really see, you got a trend line working up, a close. So all you got to do is move one tick below there, and then it could bounce. But when it comes down here and bounces right off that suspected trend line right there after a close and a couple legs down in that bullish bar, go long right there. And again, you catch a low point and look at it go, and your runners would have been safe. And where would you probably exit? Right up here where this swung across those 2 bars. So I would have exited right into that, a tick or so below that, and you see it goes 2 or 3 ticks higher, and then it reverses. And again, I like going short just because you're so far away from the EMA and because it's coming off that trend line. And again, you would have had runners here, and you could have ridden this all the way back down to the low here. And you have to suspect you might get a break lower here because we way overshot this channel right here. So that's the reason I didn't like any longs in here, and still like taking one more short, because that's the first real close. Although that one looks like it closes outside, we could be a little higher there. And you can see a trend line. I wouldn't risk that one. I would wait. And then we come and we get 2 legs up with your close outside. That's not a perfect signal bar, and so that's part of the reason I made that one green. And plus, it's kind of back into that previous support resistance, so there's a chance it could hit that and bounce, or even the trend line and bounce. But I still like it for a quick short back to the trend line, and probably going to overshoot it because we overshot it so far up here. And you probably wouldn't have got anything but a scalp out of that if you took it, but it is a little aggressive. And it's tempting to go long down here, but we're not back down to this trend line or this midline. So and we're still below the EMA, so I was a little leery of taking anything. And that is a nice reversal. But that bar's so big, you'd have to go, if you used a limit order trying to get in, you wouldn't have got anything. So I didn't even mark it. There's not much happening there. So, but notice there's a trend line working up. You get a close outside, move to a new high. And look how far away you are from the EMA again. It closes inside that original trend line. What I would be thinking is that, hey, we may get a measured move like that right there. Look, we actually got that plus a little more. And so I like entering there. And when it pulls back here, and this is like a little breakout pullback short. And so I like going short again right there, looking for it to make that new low. This was the first break, and we don't have a new low. We never ended up getting a new low. But that last trade, and that's a little aggressive because it's not a perfect signal bar. It is back into that support resistance line, so you got to be in the EMA. So it's not a perfect setup. You can see the trend line working down through there as well. I just used that arrow, but that's a trend line. And that would have turned out to be a nice trade. It's aggressive, so I made it green. But that got you into the 2 o'clock hour. So, but look how prices are below the EMA, above, below, above, below, above, above, below, above, below. that's a sure sign that it's a range, and you can trade it both ways, but still you got to pay attention to your trend lines. And this looks a little messy, but this is a bigger two-tiered channel working lower, and there's other trends within there. So, and you need to be aware of those. I like to draw them all the way down to the short-term ones, and there's one that works up right here. You can see that, and that would have been a little bit of a concern, but it's a big overshoot up here. Put that on, you can see we kind of overshot it, and then you got that little trap right there at the trend line. So this bigger one's going to obviously take precedence over this shorter term one here. That was a nice move up right there. Most all of these buys down here, you could have just about bought, you really could have bought any of these lows and would have got a scalp out of them. So, but for the reasons we talked about, this was a little risky. So you're better off just to kind of sit tight there. And that really is about it for today. Not, like I said, the volume is back up. Things are looking really good. Lots of trades again. You know, for a couple of days there, we only had 4 or 5 trades, but I think that was just a hangover from the holiday and so forth. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for today. Not much else to talk about. Good trading day. Hope you had a good trading day. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow, but I'm done for today. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.